The consequence of prejudice unfolded dramatically one October evening at one of Los Angeles's most prestigious establishments, when a receptionist made a critical error in judgment by attempting to dismiss a casually dressed guest, unaware that she was standing face-to-face with acclaimed actress Margot Robbie. The situation took an even more remarkable turn when Leonardo DiCaprio arrived, changing the power dynamic in a way that would become unforgettable for everyone present. This extraordinary incident reveals how appearances can deceive and how quickly fortunes can change when assumptions collide with reality. Before continuing with this account, we invite readers to share their location in the comments section below. For those who appreciate narratives like this, we recommend subscribing to our channel, as tomorrow brings another compelling story you won't want to miss. That October evening, rain lashed against the streets of Los Angeles, transforming them into reflective surfaces that mirrored the city's vibrant illumination. Among countless pedestrians hurrying under umbrellas, a solitary woman walked with her sweatshirt hood deliberately positioned to obscure her facial features. The black cap served its purpose, providing anonymity from curious onlookers. Margot Robbie inhaled deeply as she approached the entrance of Maison Verte, one of the city's most exclusive accommodations. Despite the weariness weighing upon her shoulders, her mental faculties remained sharp. She required a secure sanctuary before an important engagement scheduled for the following morning, a seemingly straightforward need that, for someone of her status, rarely proved simple. Upon passing through the revolving entrance, her senses were immediately enveloped by the delicate fragrance of jasmine intermingled with vanilla. The interior exuded refinement. Polished marble surfaces reflected light from crystal chandeliers while piano melodies softly filled the background. This was clearly an establishment catering to an elite clientele, those willing to pay premium rates for both luxury and discretion. Margot proceeded toward the reception counter. Behind it stood a young woman with impeccable posture and meticulous attention, evaluating each arriving guest. A golden nameplate identified her as Julia. Julia's eyebrow elevated slightly as Margot approached. Her gaze methodically assessed the woman from head to toe, taking in the sweatshirt, simple denim pants, and comfortable athletic footwear, an ensemble that appeared incongruous with Maison Verte's typical patronage. "Good evening. How may I be of assistance?" The query emerged with controlled inflection, yet contained a subtle hesitation suggesting premature judgment of the visitor's presence. Maintaining composure while projecting firmness, Margot responded, "I have a reservation under Margot Taylor." Julia paused momentarily. The name evidently failed to register immediate recognition. The receptionist entered the information into her computer system, scanning the screen with precision. "Margot Taylor," she repeated, furrowing her brow. "We don't have any VIP reservations under that name." This statement triggered an internal alert for Margot. She maintained a discreet smile, having encountered similar situations previously. "I can show you the confirmation," she offered, quickly retrieving her mobile phone and displaying the email while extending it toward Julia. Rather than immediately examining the screen, the receptionist sighed faintly and reached for the desk telephone, as if preparing to address a more significant matter. Margot observed the subtle shift in Julia's expression, a look she recognized all too well, prejudgment without adequate information. Julia eventually accepted the phone and briefly glanced at the display. Her tone remained detached. "Oh, of course, let me verify again." Something else permeated her voice, an undertone of sarcasm. Margot inhaled slowly, preserving her patience. She desired no confrontation, she simply wanted access to her accommodations. However, she perceived that Julia had already established an invisible barrier between them. As Julia resumed typing into the system, an uncomfortable silence descended upon the reception area. Across the lobby, several guests began observing the interaction. Few things attracted attention more effectively than moments of disguised tension. Margot discreetly crossed her arms while waiting. She sensed the weight of Julia's gaze, which now deliberately avoided eye contact. In a clipped tone, Julia delivered a comment that would transform everything: "This hotel caters to exclusive clientele. Perhaps there's been some confusion." The implication was unmistakable: you don't belong here. Margot blinked deliberately, processing the statement. She was accustomed to recognition, in airports, at events, even inside retail establishments when simply desiring coffee. Yet at this moment, Julia remained oblivious to who stood before her. Perhaps that was beneficial. Or perhaps not. Julia remained unaware that the woman facing her wasn't merely another guest. She was someone whose name achieved global recognition. The receptionist continued inputting data, her lips compressed and expression strained, as if attempting to resolve a significant mystery. Margot understood precisely what was occurring. This wasn't an error. Julia had no intention of locating the reservation. Margot Taylor, the receptionist repeated, slightly tilting her head. I don't see any VIP reservations under that name. Her tone maintained politeness, but something lurked beneath the surface. Margot comprehended the exact meaning: her presence wasn't welcome here. She remained composed despite irritation building internally. The reservation was arranged weeks ago. I have confirmation here. She unlocked her device, located the email, and presented the screen toward Julia. The receptionist barely glanced at it before releasing an extended, exaggerated sigh. Oh, certainly. Let me check again. Margot noticed the discrepancy. The discomfort intensified. Julia wasn't adhering to protocol. She had already determined that Margot didn't warrant treatment as a valued patron. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, but Margot could discern from her expression that she wasn't genuinely searching for anything. Miss Taylor, Julia crossed her arms. Are you certain the reservation was made at Maison Verda? This wasn't a legitimate inquiry, it was an insult. Frustration built within Margot, but she maintained firm vocalization. I'm absolutely certain. Julia smiled, though the expression lacked warmth. Well, our system shows no confirmation under your name, but I can suggest a more economical accommodation several blocks away. A direct affront. Margot didn't visibly react, but the atmospheric shift was undeniable. Attention had now focused on the interaction. The couple positioned near the fireplace ceased their conversation. The man at the bar lowered his beverage, curiosity evident in his gaze. Julia wasn't merely denying the reservation, she was actively rejecting Margot. The actress briefly held the receptionist's gaze before surveying the surroundings. Tension permeated the air. Maintaining a level voice underlaid with steely determination, Margot observed, "You haven't properly checked the system, have you?" Julia blinked, momentarily disoriented. "I'm simply following established procedures, ma'am. If you prefer, you may wait while I verify again." Margot clearly recognized Julia's strategy. The receptionist was dominating this power exchange. Margot drew a measured breath. "Is your manager available?" Julia's smirk subtly intensified. "He's occupied currently, but I can attempt another verification." She adjusted her monitor position slightly, presenting the appearance of conducting a search. However, Margot noticed the reflection in the glass panel behind the reception counter. The system remained on its home screen. Julia wasn't searching for anything. Irritation intensified within Margot's chest. Before she could respond, a sound interrupted her thoughts, the faint activation of a camera shutter. Her gaze shifted toward the bar, where a suited man held his phone at chest level, feigning innocence after capturing an image. He had recognized her. And if his recognition had occurred, others would follow. Margot's heartbeat accelerated. This situation had transcended a mishandled reservation, it now involved potential exposure. Julia noticed the alteration in Margot's expression, and her smirk expanded. She sensed Margot's vulnerability. "Miss Taylor, perhaps wait in the lounge while we resolve this matter? I'm confident we can arrange something suitable." The humiliation had reached completion. Before Margot could formulate a response, another receptionist approached Julia and whispered something in her ear. Julia stiffened. Her gaze darted between Margot, the man at the bar, and Margot's phone. Suspicion was beginning to form. However, before further comment could emerge, the hotel entrance doors swung forcefully open. A cold gust carried raindrops into the lobby. Julia's head pivoted sharply toward the entrance. The security personnel stationed near the door adjusted their posture. Every head in the room turned simultaneously. Then he entered. Attired in a tailored black suit complemented by a crisp white shirt, with shoes slightly dampened from rainfall. His presence immediately altered the room's energy. His movements were deliberate, measured, unwavering. His gaze swept across the space, assimilating everything within seconds. Then his eyes found Margot. Though the baseball cap still shadowed portions of her face, recognition was instantaneous. Their brief visual exchange communicated everything necessary. Julia swallowed with difficulty. Margot maintained silence. The man strode directly toward her, disregarding everyone else. The lobby fell silent. Then, with a subtle, knowing smile, he spoke, "Is everything satisfactory here?" The impact of his words resonated throughout the space. Julia froze. Identification was unnecessary. Everyone recognized him. Though his name remained unspoken, Julia comprehended in that moment that she had committed an irreversible error. Leonardo inhaled deeply, regarded Julia, and proceeded to do something that astonished everyone present. The Maison Verte lobby maintained absolute silence, the kind of tension-filled quiet where occupants debated whether to speak or simply observe. Julia, who had projected complete authority moments earlier, now appeared breathless. The man standing before her transcended ordinary guest status. It was Leonardo DiCaprio. Dressed impeccably in a perfectly tailored black suit, pristine white shirt, and shoes bearing evidence of recent rainfall, he emanated effortless elegance that immediately transformed the room's atmosphere. However, what truly paralyzed Julia wasn't his identity but the way he directly acknowledged Margot. "Did my arrival take excessive time?" he inquired, his voice lowered with subtle amusement. His question generated shockwaves throughout the lobby. Julia blinked repeatedly, struggling to process the scene unfolding before her. The woman she had dismissed moments ago, the one she had deliberately humiliated, was now being addressed by Leonardo DiCaprio with unmistakable familiarity that shattered Julia's assumptions. Exhaling slowly, Margot formed a slight smile. "You understand how much I appreciate testing patience." Leonardo's eyes conveyed understanding through their sparkle. The lobby remained motionless, as if collective respiration had ceased. The power dynamic underwent instantaneous transformation. Julia, previously exhibiting absolute confidence, now stood immobilized. Her facial features tensed. She attempted speech but produced no sound. Then the inevitable occurred. Across the lobby near the fireplace, a couple exchanged astonished glances. Emma, a woman with brown hair arranged in a casual bun, widened her eyes significantly. "Harry," she whispered, nudging her husband's arm. Harry, who had been observing with mild interest, frowned. "What?" She looked directly at Margot, then at Leonardo. Comprehension dawned. "Harry, oh my God, I believe it's her." Harry redirected his attention toward Margot. Her baseball cap continued shielding portions of her face. But now recognition was undeniable. Harry's breathing faltered. Impossible. What would bring her here? Emma swallowed nervously. Perhaps attempting a quiet evening, observe the outcome. She gradually shifted her focus toward Julia. Julia remained motionless, blinking infrequently, uncertain how to proceed. That's when realization struck her. The damage was irreversible. Margot Robbie wasn't merely another guest. And Julia had just demonstrated the worst possible treatment. At the bar, the same individual who had surreptitiously photographed earlier now held his phone again, hesitating. Should he capture another image? Begin recording? Whatever transpired here would likely become a significant controversy. Julia straightened her posture. She attempted recovery, but the opportunity had passed. Leonardo's eyes, previously conveying calmness, now carried different weight. "I believe my friend has a reservation here," he stated, his voice maintaining softness but communicating undeniable authority. Julia swallowed with difficulty. Certainly, sir, I'll verify immediately." She began typing frantically, genuinely this time. Each keystroke represented a blow to her self-importance. Because now she actively searched for the reservation. Now she sought resolution. But it no longer mattered. The damage was complete. Leonardo crossed his arms, waiting patiently. Margot remained silent. Her gaze fixed on Julia, though without expressing anger. Her emotion wasn't rage but exhaustion, the particular weariness that develops when experiencing something repeatedly until surprise no longer registers. Julia eventually located the reservation. Relief flooded her features as she quickly entered information and forced a smile. "Here it is." Her voice barely exceeded a whisper. But no lobby occupant believed her sudden transformation. She turned the screen toward Margot, her fingers exhibiting slight tremors. "Yes, indeed, your reservation appears here. Merely a system error." Margot raised an eyebrow. "Oh? A system error?" Julia's complexion reddened. Leonardo, positioned beside Margot, released a brief, humorless chuckle. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the hallway. The hotel manager appearing pale as if already aware of the problematic situation. His gaze moved rapidly between Leonardo DiCaprio, Margot, and Julia. No inquiry was necessary. Understanding was immediate. The entire lobby anticipated Leonardo's reaction. Julia, desperate for resolution, attempted salvaging the situation. "Mr. DiCaprio, please accept my profound apologies for any confusion." She forced a tight smile, turning toward Margot. "Miss Taylor, I want to assure complete perfection during your stay." Her scramble for redemption found no purchase. Because when she returned her gaze to Margot, something had changed. She observed how everyone else regarded Margot, the couple by the fireplace, the man at the bar, the security guard positioned at the entrance. They had all witnessed the interaction. The humiliation could not be erased. Leonardo inhaled deeply. Julia flinched visibly. Then he proceeded with an unexpected action. Leonardo inhaled deeply, regarded Julia, then performed something entirely unexpected. The silence pervading Maison Verde's lobby was suffocating. Every observer focused intently on Leonardo DiCaprio. Julia, who moments earlier projected complete control, now resembled a wax figure, incapable of response. Uncertainty paralyzed her. The confidence she had displayed minutes earlier disintegrated the instant Leonardo entered the establishment. Julia remained motionless beside him, maintaining facial composure while her gaze revealed everything. Leonardo sighed audibly, running fingers through his slightly damp hair. The lobby occupants waited expectantly. The hotel manager, attired in a well-fitted navy suit, appeared on the verge of collapse. He comprehended the situation's severity. The receptionist stationed adjacent to Julia ceased typing and now observed her colleague with combined pity and apprehension. Julia swallowed forcefully, attempting to regain composure while manufacturing a nervous smile. "Mr. DiCaprio," her voice emerged at higher pitch than intended. "I sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding. We're currently resolving everything." Margot crossed her arms. "Oh. Now resolution occurs?" Julia blinked rapidly. Yes, it was merely a system error. You understand these occasional occurrences." She attempted laughter, but the sound died midway through. No one joined her. Leonardo maintained his serious demeanor. The security guard positioned near the entrance, who had silently observed the entire episode, advanced slightly, anticipating what might follow. Leonardo adjusted his stance. He uncrossed his arms deliberately, placing his hands directly on the reception counter before Julia. His gaze, previously friendly, sharpened considerably. "May I ask something?" His voice remained calm and quiet yet sharp as a blade. Julia straightened anxiously. "Yes, sir." Leonardo tilted his head slightly. "Would this system error have manifested had I not arrived?" Julia's face drained of color. The question lingered, poisoned by obvious truth. It struck powerfully because everyone present knew the answer. No, it wouldn't have occurred. Had Margot remained alone, Julia would never have acknowledged any error. She would have dismissed her, directing her to alternative accommodation. Julia struggled to formulate any response. She attempted to construct an excuse that might extract her from this situation, but escape proved impossible. Leonardo maintained his focus directly on her. His expression remained composed, but patience had clearly evaporated from his eyes. The hotel manager finally intervened, assuming control of the situation. "Ms. Robbie, Mr. DiCaprio, please accept our profound apologies." Julia turned toward him, silently pleading for assistance, but the manager didn't acknowledge her. His attention focused exclusively on Margot and Leonardo. "This behavior contradicts our guest treatment standards. I assure you, immediate correction will occur." Julia's presence diminished further. Leonardo continued observing her, seemingly waiting for personal admission. But Julia would never provide that. She simply stood motionless, heart racing, fists clenched tightly against her sides. She desperately desired conclusion to this moment, but Leonardo refused to facilitate an easy resolution. "What if circumstances involved someone else?" he inquired, still focusing on Julia. The manager swallowed nervously. Julia sensed every gaze in the room directed toward her. Leonardo's question devastated any remaining defense. What if the guest had been someone without recognizable status or fame? Would identical treatment have occurred? Julia provided no answer, not from unwillingness but inability. Because everyone present understood the truth, she had no defense. Margot sighed softly, breaking the silence. "This represents a common occurrence." Her quiet voice conveyed undeniable truth. The manager bit his lip, visibly uncomfortable. He recognized this situation wouldn't simply disappear. The hotel's reputation faced serious jeopardy. Leonardo straightened his posture again, redirecting attention from Julia to the manager. "Julia should have accessed her room 15 minutes ago." The manager nearly stumbled while rushing to respond. "Yes, certainly. We're addressing everything immediately." Julia hurriedly entered information into the system, printing room key cards. She slid them across the counter, struggling to maintain steady hands. "Here they are." Margot accepted them wordlessly, but Julia couldn't divert her gaze. She anticipated some comment from Margot. Perhaps reassurance, "It's acceptable." Perhaps acknowledgement, "These situations happen." But no such response materialized. Margot withheld further attention. Julia ceased to exist in her perception. Somehow, that indifference inflicted greater pain than any verbal response Margot might have offered. Leonardo collected Margot's small suitcase, prepared to escort her to the elevator. The couple positioned near the fireplace continued their stunned observation. The man at the bar, who had photographed earlier, refrained from capturing additional images. He recognized the moment's immortalization had already occurred. Margot and Leonardo proceeded together toward the elevator. All observers followed their progress until the doors closed. When they did, Julia experienced the entire evening's weight collapsing upon her shoulders. She had committed the most significant professional error of her career. Instinctively, she knew this situation remained unresolved. Julia stood immobilized at reception, understanding that her name would be remembered, for entirely negative reasons. Leonardo DiCaprio had now assumed complete command of the situation. The power dynamic had fundamentally transformed. Julia recognized her mistake's irreversibility. Margot and Leonardo departed the lobby in silence. But the damage was complete. The predominant question remained: what consequences awaited Julia? The Maison Verte lobby had never experienced such profound silence. Julia remained motionless. She continued standing behind the reception counter. Her fingers pressed against the polished wooden surface with such force that her nails nearly inscribed marks. The recent occurrence spiraled through her consciousness like a tempest. Margot Robbie had maintained silence. Leonardo DiCaprio never raised his voice. Yet the impact proved devastating. Julia experienced the weight of every observer's scrutiny. Lobby guests now perceived her differently. Previously, she represented authority within a luxury establishment. Someone controlling guest admission and rejection. Now, she embodied failure, the woman who attempted to humiliate Margot Robbie and experienced spectacular failure. The hotel manager, having attempted to contain the disaster, finally inhaled deeply before turning toward Julia. His expression didn't convey anger. It communicated something worse. It expressed disappointment. "Julia, accompany me. Immediately." She blinked, returning to reality. "Mr. Jenner, I can explain." He raised his hand, interrupting her. "Not here. In my office." Attention throughout the lobby intensified. Everyone understood the implication. Julia attempted to maintain composure while navigating around the counter. Her heartbeat intensified until she could perceive blood pulsing through her ears. She felt every observer's scrutiny. With each step toward the glass door leading to administrative offices, her shame amplified. Upon entering the office, atmospheric pressure seemed to increase. The manager closed the door behind them, exhaling sharply. Julia turned quickly, attempting to control the conversation. "Mr. Jenner, everything represents a misunderstanding. I genuinely couldn't locate the reservation within the system." The manager sat slowly, positioning his elbows on the desk. He maintained direct eye contact with her. "Don't present falsehoods, Julia." Those words struck her forcefully. She attempted speech, but no justification emerged. Because internally, she recognized futility. Jenner continued observing her, awaiting response. When none came, he continued. "You mistreated a guest without justification. You deliberately delayed her check-in process. You attempted to humiliate a client who, as circumstances reveal, represents one of Hollywood's most respected women." Julia lowered her gaze. The manager slammed his palm against the desk, causing her to startle. "But the most egregious aspect, Julia, is that without Leonardo DiCaprio's arrival, you would never have rectified the situation." She swallowed painfully. Yes, that constituted the worst element. Jenner sighed before reclining in his chair, massaging his temples. "Do you comprehend subsequent developments?" Julia remained silent. But she already understood. The manager leaned forward. "Information is already circulating." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" He rotated his monitor and accessed social media. A photograph depicted the hotel lobby. The post headline read, "Maison Verte receptionist attempts to humiliate Margot Robbie, Leonardo DiCaprio intervenes decisively." Julia felt respiratory distress. She scrolled through comments, reading with horror. This occurred today. The hotel must be preparing termination for this employee. Leonardo being Leonardo, resolving situations as always. Has her employment terminated yet? Because honestly, after this incident, Julia's complexion paled dramatically. This cannot be happening. The manager maintained his resolute expression. It has occurred, and now institutional response is required. He inhaled deeply and without hesitation pronounced the words Julia most dreaded. "Your employment is terminated." The impact devastated her. Julia experienced cold sensation along her spine. "Mr. Jenner, please. I've dedicated years to Maison Verda. This represents an isolated error." He stood, interrupting her defense. "An error? Julia, your behavior transcended mere rudeness toward a guest. You attempted ejection. You caused humiliation. And what about guests without celebrity status? What then?" She couldn't respond. Jenner indicated the screen. "Maison Verda cannot associate with such controversy. Your termination takes immediate effect." Julia sensed the ground disappearing beneath her. She wanted to speak, to plead, but recognized the futility. Julia exited the office with impaired vision. The journey toward the hotel's exit seemed interminable. She collected her belongings, her conscience burdened unprecedentedly. She traversed the lobby, avoiding guest observation. But she knew everyone recognized the situation. Upon reaching the exit, she paused momentarily. The security guard observed her. He remained silent. But his expression communicated everything. She stepped onto the sidewalk. Light rain continued, but Julia disregarded protection. She simply walked, directionless. She no longer represented a luxury hotel receptionist. Now she exemplified consequences resulting from judging individuals without understanding their identity. And the world would retain that memory indefinitely. Hours later, within the Maison Verda lobby, conditions had normalized. Reception staff had changed shifts. The manager had issued strict directives ensuring Margot Robbie and Leonardo DiCaprio received optimal service. Emma, who had recognized Margot earlier, remained present, conversing with her husband. She shook her head incredulously. "I suspect Julia will never again judge anyone based on appearance." Harry chuckled while sipping wine. "Assuming she secures alternative employment anywhere." Emma glanced toward the elevators where Margot and Leonardo had disappeared hours earlier. She had no comprehension regarding her interaction partner. That night, Julia learned painfully that respect must precede arrogance. Margot Robbie sat at her luxurious suite's king-sized bed edge. Travel exhaustion finally manifested. Yet the lobby confrontation remained vivid mentally. She traced fingers across crisp white bedding, contemplative. Across the room, Leonardo stood near the window, observing the illuminated cityscape below. She received appropriate consequences, he commented without averting his gaze from the skyline. Margot sighed. "Perhaps. But my primary concern isn't her treatment of me. It's recognizing this represents common experience for people lacking advocates." Leonardo turned toward her, studying her expression. She appeared distant yet meaningful. He occupied the armchair opposite her position. "You understand personal limitations regarding global injustice, correct?" Margot offered a slight smile. He smiled in return. "You likely don't recall. When I represented just another struggling actor seeking establishment, an event occurred. A gathering filled with influential individuals. You were among few who engaged me as someone significant." Margot remained silent. She attempted recalling that specific interaction but couldn't access that particular memory. That didn't invalidate its truth, as such behavior aligned perfectly with her character. She swallowed, affected by his recollection. Leonardo offered a gentle smile. "Perhaps now represented my opportunity for reciprocity." The following morning, when Margot and Leonardo descended to the lobby, atmospheric energy had transformed. Staff maintained cautious silence. The hotel manager hurried toward them, smiling nervously. "Mr. DiCaprio, Miss Robbie, on behalf of Maison Verda, please accept our offer for complimentary accommodation and special dining arrangement as apology for yesterday's incident." Margot smiled politely. She collected her luggage and briefly glanced toward Leonardo. "We appreciate your offer, Mr. Jenner, but we've decided against extending our stay." The manager forced a smile despite evident discomfort. Leonardo collected his own luggage and followed Margot toward the exit. As they traversed the lobby, several staff members discreetly lowered their heads. The vehicle transporting Margot Robbie and Leonardo DiCaprio moved smoothly through Los Angeles streets. Maison Verde Hotel receded into distance. Margot offered a small smile. "And Julia? Do you believe she gained insight?" Leonardo sighed, positioning his arm across the seat back. "She faced options. Learn from experience or remain entrapped by pride. The decision remains hers." Margot laughed softly. "Do you consistently maintain such philosophical perspective?" Leonardo shrugged. "I've experienced considerable life lessons. I recognize some individuals resist change, while others require significant impact to perceive reality differently." During their journey, Margot's phone signaled an incoming message. She checked the screen and noticed communication from a friend. A video attachment. Margot smiled quietly. Leonardo observed with curiosity. "What is it?" She shook her head, maintaining her smile. "Nothing significant. Just observing consequence development." Leonardo raised an eyebrow. "See? I predicted meaningful impact." Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.